right, twice the charm here. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm back. Let's hope that I have sound on YouTube. IAAH Radio Plus. Thank you for joining me, Judge Desire for Knowledge. Sorry about the delay. Hi, do you hear me is what I need to know. I probably had it on the wrong channel. So, what? Yes or no, please? All right. So, okay, great. And so with the delay, twice the charm. I don't do 3 times the charm, twice. Because nothing's going to stop from the message coming out. Thanks for joining me, Judge Desire for Knowledge, on Legal Matters this beautiful Saturday. Happy New Year's. It is about 20 degrees here in the mountains. Hi, IAAH Radio Plus and IAAH Radio. Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining in and tuning in. Go check me on all social media as well. Follow me there. Come check out my flicks, my shorts on YouTube, my pictures. I'm always doing something. I'm always out and about in my travels. So go check that out. I just put up travels in the Dominican Republic. I have a part 2. So I haven't put that up yet with all the celebrations going on. I put it up last week because I took a break. But I'm going to add part 2, and I wanted to go live with this trending topic that we have going on. Basically, I know my title says it's a rights about eviction of tenants, but this is about online rentals specifically because it's trending right now, like Airbnbs and stuff like that. So if you're an owner or you own property and you decide you want to rent it because you're not there, or you are there and you want to rent the bottom part, whatever the case is, Airbnb it, I use that term. This is for you. This show is for you. So I figured this will be done the beginning of the year because it was supposed to be done on the end of every month, but it ended up being New Year's. So the New Year's Legal Matters show today is Know Your Rights to Evict Tenants Who Claim Ownership. And that is the new trend. It's been all over social media and in the news of people taking over other people's properties and unwilling to move, like squatters and things like that. So we got to be very wary about things and whom we give our we allow to rent as guests versus tenants. So you got to be really careful. This can go actually for both tenant and guests if people are landlords and they're renting as well, not as an Airbnb. But mostly I wanted to project this week on the Airbnb and online. There's so many different ways you can put up your properties and have them rented, your separate properties or your multiple properties, whatever applies to you. So I decided to do this for you guys, the owners, the homeowners out there. And so I'm going to start with that. Basically, I hope everyone had a great Happy New Year's. We welcome in 2026, and let's see what it brings for us this year. Blessings, hopefully, for everyone. And with that being said, if you are an owner of property, this is important for you to hear this, or you operating or plan to an Airbnb, and an occupant claims ownership, your actual rights turn on their legal status. So, okay, your actual rights turn on their legal status to guest versus tenant. And your state and local procedures is important to know. So, for instance, I am doing New York State procedures right now because that's where I work and that's what I know. The entity with where I work in, this is New York State only laws. So I'm going to let you know that there's different things, different ways of doing things, but I've noticed going outside of my state and outside of the country, all the procedures are particularly the same. The difference is the laws. Every state, every country has their own laws, so you have to abide by that. So before you rental and you know which state, country, or wherever you're going to buy the property at, or if it's in New York State, this one is for New York State. It's going to be similar, but you have the opportunity and the responsibility to check your local laws and procedures there. Okay, most likely it's the same procedures, but like I said, the laws are drastically different. It might be different amount of time that they could stay in your property or before they try to take ownership. So let me go through the process with you now. As I was saying, an occupant tries to claim ownership on your property, then the ownership claims itself. Okay, it usually does not give them immediate right to stay. It determines how aggressively you should document, escalate, and choose the correct court process before renting. Now, this is the work you have to do. You don't just buy the property or have property sitting there that you had for years and say, "Oh, I'm just going to go do an Airbnb on this or rent it to a tenant or a guest." No, you have to do your research, which state it is, what you're going to do, what you're going to amplify, implicate on the application process. Before you do it, get your stuff together is what I'm trying to say. Check out the laws in that state or the state where you live that you have the property. In New York State, once a guest stays more than 30 days or longer, okay, stays 30 days or longer. Okay, so in other words, 30 days now, they are no longer considered a guest. So be careful under state laws in New York. They legally become a tenant even without a written lease or rental agreement. Okay, so if you haven't done that, implement that. This significantly changes your rights and the process for removing them. It really does. It makes it harder. The court system will look at it, and it's really going to be hard for you to get them out. And that's how they claim ownership. The longer they stay, and definitely, I wanted to add this. I don't think I have this in my notes. Do not allow mail in their name to come to your home that you're renting, because then they'll say they've been living here and they've occupied your home legally by having mail sent to the home and they're only a guest. Okay, so particularly most Airbnbs that I've seen, they rent for your trips, your vacations, your 2 weeks, your 1 week, your few days. I've seen monthlies. I've seen it, and that's where you have to implement these rules. Once it becomes over 29 days in New York State, do not let them pass the 29 days. I believe then you would need to write up a new agreement if you allow them to stay for the month, because then they occupying it. Okay, that's what we call you're occupying and making it ownership. You're going to become now the tenant. All right. And the same thing when you're renting an apartment or a house in New York State, from what I remember, if you have a lease, I wouldn't do more. I'm suggesting, I'm not giving advice. I'm not an attorney. I've worked in the legal field. But what my thing is, and in the courts, so that you know that that is important to know this part, but it's not advice. It's just, I suggest that you actually never give more than a year on a lease in case you don't like the person later or they're not paying. It'll be easier to get them out because they'll break it. They'll break the lease and you don't have to deal with the situation anymore. By not paying, non-payment is a breaking of lease. But if you don't go forward to the courts with this, it makes it harder. Once they stop paying, they're not going to pay, most of them. Some people do have hardships, but you got to recognize the difference. Some play you and some aren't playing. They don't have it. You can work it out with them. But I would never do a year. And basically, what's really smart, and my parents, they were landlords as well. They did tenancy, monthly tenancy, which means if I don't like you, I'm not keeping you here at all. We go to court, you're out. Month to month tenancy is called, and that's implemented on. I'm sorry, houses, rentals of houses and apartments. And now we're on Airbnb and online rentals, people that post their stuff up there. It's not as easy as it seems. It seems nice, but there's a lot of liabilities. So you want to protect yourself. Here are your legal rights and legal eviction procedures that you should know straight off. Okay. One, legal status after 30 days. That's what happens. So you want to do 29. Under New York property, real property law, RPL, section 232-A and section 232 -B, those sections and New York City administrative codes, under that, a person who has occupied a dwelling unit continuously for 30 days or more gains tenant protections. Okay, because the law has to be fair and impartial. So that means you cannot lock them out or remove their belongings without a court order. All right. Police will not remove them for trespassing either once they cross the 30-day threshold. So don't forget that. The only way to remove them is through a formal eviction proceeding in housing court. New York City is called housing court, or city/town court would be outside of New York City. I'm only dealing with New York now. So those smaller courts outside of New York City are usually town courts or city courts. All right, because they work within the vicinity of a small town or city. So understand that. And please, I've heard this in court. Oh, you work for the city. We work for the state. We are state courts. There's only two kinds of courts, jurisdiction, state and federal. There is no such thing. So when you of city court, the only name of the city jurisdiction being under government of the city, none. The reason why you see city courts is because they're in the vicinity of a small town or city outside of New York City. So lesson number one there, get your smarts, because normally if you don't, you look foolish. You want to know what you're doing and you want to see what you're doing. And when you're going to apply to court to take people out of their jurisdiction, out of your properties, out of, remove them before they get the status. Like I said, if you follow these rules that are implemented, then you will have no problem. Maybe a little tedious, but you'll get them out. Some people, it takes years, a year. I've just heard in the news, it took them so many years. The person came for a month, I believe. I'm not going to put the story out there. Then they stayed over the time. They lied about everything. And this person, we did it repeatedly to different people. So be very careful of people out there. And there's steps you can take to protect yourself, because you don't know these people when you're putting it online. All right. And two, what happens if they claim ownership? A claim of ownership does not override your deed or title in New York. Okay. Ownership can only be transferred by a valid deed filed with the county clerk. So when we say ownership, it's not exactly that they're going to keep your home or anything. You have your proof, you have your documentation, but they'll occupy it for as long as they want, as if they were owners. So you don't want them to be occupying your properties. You hear, you lose money. You're not able to rent it to someone that actually is going to pay, because now you have someone, you didn't do your job. You didn't go back there and back yourself up and see what you needed to do. If money rules you, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. If business rules you, you're going to make the right decisions. So make sure you do that correctly. I'm sorry. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Exactly. Thank you. I'm working hard. All right. Ownership can only be transferred by a valid deed filed with the county clerk. All right. A squatter or Airbnb guest or any of those places where you book your rental to cannot simply claim your property. A squatter or Airbnb guest, okay, or wherever you go to. It doesn't mean just Airbnb. There's a lot more out there, I believe. They cannot just simply claim your property. Adverse possession in New York requires 10 years of continuous, hostile, and exclusive occupation without permission. All right. Realty property actions and proceeding laws. Section 501 through 522 will explain that, because that's what it's called, adverse possession in New York. Because I'm not going to say it's going to take 10 years, but possibly it has for a lot of people that have done rentals on apartments and house rentals, not the ones online. I don't believe. I pray not. But either one is subjected to this sadness. These people are taking over. They're sitting on your property for years and you're not getting paid. So now you go into debt or your mortgage is behind because of it, you have to be really careful and address the situation ahead of time. Number three is required eviction process. These eviction processes are summary holdover proceedings, which are going to be required if a guest refused to leave after 30 days. And these are the four steps to this process. Step one, serve a proper notice to quit. And I'll explain what that is in the end. A 30-day written notice is typically required. If no lease exists, you got to do something. All right. Must be personally served or post. Now, this is after the person, if you didn't do all the paperwork and you didn't do the lease, you didn't do a signing agreement, and this person doesn't leave, you would serve a proper notice to quit staying here at my place, kind of thing. um, this way, you get a 30-day written notice. It's typically required, like I said, if you have no lease or agreement intact. Must be personally served or posted and mailed by a licensed process server or adult that over 18, I may add, that's not involved in the case. That's very important because then the court will shut it down and dismiss it, and you'll have to bring it back in because it's each procedure in a court can either be good for you or not if you don't follow the rules. You can't just go in there and say you're doing what you want to do. You're going to have to get someone 18. You got to get a licensed process server. If not, then that person must be 18 and not involved in the case. All right. It means that if you two are the owners, you don't go. All right. If your husband and yourself, you send somebody else outside of the proceedings, outside who are not involved. The second thing in serving, the second thing of this process, the step process, is after you've done notice to quit, the next process is to file a holdover petition in housing or city/town court. File under the Real Property Actions and Proceedings Law, RPAPL, Section 711. That's for a holdover when a tenant who remains after their right to occupy has expired. Those are the stubborn ones, the squatters. The court will schedule a hearing, usually within a few weeks. Okay, it takes time. Like I said, if you do cross your T's and dot your I's, you wouldn't have to go through this. But let's say it happens, and it does a lot. You're gonna need to get these things in fact if you didn't do it in the first place. Attend court and obtain a warrant of eviction. The judge must issue a judgment for possession, of course, before any removal occurs. So you can't just tell them this is my place and you got to go. That's not how it works. Not in New York State. Okay, not there. Here, I'm giving you for New York State. So, like I said, you're going to have to look it up in the rules and the laws of whatever state you live in. Usually, the procedures is the same. You could get an eviction, a warrant of eviction in any state, but that's the procedures. You got to go and abide by their laws in that state, wherever state your property is. Um, like I said, no removal can be done without a judgment of possession on the property. All right. Marshal or sheriff performs the eviction, is the last step in the process. They'll perform the eviction, but only a licensed city marshal or county sheriff can legally remove the occupant. You can't come in there and do things that you think because you own property, you actually don't have rights to do that, unfortunately, because then it becomes chaotic and tragic at some points. So we got to get the law enforcement there, though, so they can take a hand of it. So you got the city marshals or county sheriff can find out where it is in your county, in your state of New York, because I'm talking about New York. And if it's outside, you find out there. Only they can legally remove the occupant after after a service of 72-hour notice to vacate has been issued. So there's a 72-hour notice. I do have another show here. I did it, I think, a year ago on tenant rights, but now I'm doing landlord and ownership, so that people that own online properties or even homes that rent it. this applies to you this time, the landlord, the homeowners. And so, because I like to get everyone covered. I can't just take one side and not the other because both sides sometimes is not good. You got bad landlords, you got bad tenants, right? All right. So, um, only a licensed city marshal or county sheriff can legally remove the occupant after you give them a service of 72-hour notice to vacate and it's been issued properly. All right. Now, number 4, because we just finished the 4-step process. So, self help, I wanted to get that out, is illegal. It's illegal. It's illegal in New York to change the locks, shut off utilities, remove belongings, or otherwise force someone out without a warrant of eviction. You can't do it. Violating these rules can expose you to civil penalties, triple damages, it's going to cost you more, and possibly criminal charges under real property law. And under real property actions and proceeding laws, section 768. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, the RPAP. PL, Section 768. But here's some recommended immediate steps you can take instead of trying to force issues that you cannot do legally. All right. Because you definitely cannot force take things into your own hands. That's for sure. Self help. So, with this, we're going to go into the recommended immediate steps because you can't do that by law. This is what should be done before, but if you haven't, you do it. Document everything when this happens. Airbnb listing, the messages, the reservation dates, and proof of payment and how it was paid. Do not accept cash. All right. Don't. You could give a receipt and everything, but electronic payments are the best type of payments because now you have a tracking system that's automatic. Let's say you lose your receipt and that person says, "Oh, I paid," and you're saying, "No, they didn't," or whatever the case is. All right. You need to find out. The only way that you can get instant is by electronic proof. That proof would be making payments electronic. Like I would suggest, I don't advise, electronic payments are best. This way you have a tracking system. I call it a tracking system, how you file. Everyone should always have something. When you're doing a business, you always create a file on each individual, each client, because if they try to screw you, and I hate to say that word, but it's the truth. Not everybody's for you, not everybody's with you. It can happen. You already created the case. So therefore, you're documenting everything, the listing, the messages, the reservation dates, and proof of payment. If you don't want to do this work, don't go into business. Issue a 30-day notice to quit, which I told you already. And it has to be served properly. All right. Now, this is when you didn't go do your job and get a rental agreement and a lease or month-to-month tenancy. If you allowed the person more than 29 days, you need this. Okay. Consult a landlord tenant attorney familiar with your local housing court. It's really important because I noticed that the lawyers that we deal with as clerks, and when we work with the judges, they actually respect us and we respect them, some of them. And the thing with them is they get familiar with us so they could know exactly what steps they need to take because they don't know everything like everybody thinks. Oh no. Oh, I don't even want to go there. Some of them don't even know how to file the documents correctly or prepare them correctly. So that's what we're here for. We do that. We help them out, whatever the case may be. But the whole thing is once they get familiar, get someone that's familiar with the procedures and with the housing court because they get a better chance of helping you get this person out or people out immediately. So know that the one that knows the judge, the clerks, this and that, it's not that they're going to go and get special treatment. We don't give special treatment, but we'll know their case. They'll know what steps to take and they know what to do and how much days it takes to file something, how much it's going to be for the 30, 90, 120-day period for filing. It's really something you're not going to understand, but they know about. And if they don't know and they're not familiar with court procedures, a lawyer not familiar with court procedures is really bad for you and you won't even know it. So you're going to put up all this money to pay them per hour. The minimum I've seen per hour is 200, and that's the lowest. Okay. Unless you go and get legal aid. But either way, they won't give you legal aid unless you're really in a sense of not in a sense of poverty line. So that is not going to be likely. You have a little something, you can't do legal aid either. So be very careful and consult the right type of attorney. Contact the Airbnb or the people online that you put up your rentals to support for support to report guests overstaying and claiming ownership. So if you are with an outlet that does assist you with your rentals, you're good because now you have your own agreement you're making. And then if you created it, and if you didn't, well, you still have the backup of these people. But when you go online for yourself and you choose, I'm just not going to do Airbnb or anyone, I'm just going to post here on Facebook or something like that, be very careful. That's all I have to say about that, because you don't know who you're picking up. It's like online dating. You got to be careful, right? Do not attempt to remove them yourself again. Wait for marshal's court order. Eviction. Okay, just because you get support from the online services that you have put up your property on, doesn't mean that you now have the right to remove them yourself. There's another strong indication. Do not remove the person's properties, turn off their utilities, or throw them out, change the lights. You cannot do any of those things. But these 4 things I just told you are going to be good. 5 things. This one is number 5. Do not, as I said, attempt to remove them yourself. Wait for the marshal's court-ordered eviction. Once you get that, you still can't move them. You have to go, like I said earlier, get that marshal or that sheriff, whichever one works in your town, county, or state. Now, for prevention for future bookings, number 5. Prevention for future bookings is one thing I said. Start doing your stuff ahead and not wait for it to happen to you. That's what good business deals do. That's what good business owners will do. They're going to check off the box, make sure that their T's and I's are dotted and crossed. Limit the Airbnb stays to 29 or few in New York. Use clear written agreements for longer stays. Definitely. Rewrite once the 29th day come. If you have an agreement with the person, you're going to write up a new agreement as if they checked out and they're coming back in would be better. I would do it that way, but you could do it your way. Just make sure it doesn't go past that 29 days. Be specific and state that the stay does not create a tenancy. Okay? Make sure that they know who they are. They're not a tenant. Well, under the Airbnb style that I'm talking about, you are a tenant if you're renting a house or apartment for a landlord. I'm talking about the online Airbnbs at this time. Make sure that you specifically state that the stay does not create a tenancy in writing. Require ID verification and sign rental acknowledgement before check-in. It's that simple, guys. If you want to run a business, run it right, or it will destroy you and take everything from you. You could destroy yourself by not taking these steps in doing the right things for your own for your own sake, because the liabilities lie there, so you want to put everything in writing. I'm sure you could get those steps anywhere. So here you have the steps to do that. And before rentals, make sure you do. And in case you haven't, like I said, I have also provided the steps to take the stop ownership of a guest who occupies rental for over 29 days. So what I've given you the steps to do before rentals, and in case you haven't, I provided the steps to take to stop ownership of a guest who occupies your rental for over 29 days. So don't go over those 29 days. And now I'm going to be clear about a notice to quit. A notice to quit is a written demand. This is if you didn't do the rental agreement or any documentation. Now you have to, because this person's not leaving or the people aren't. So You give them the notice to quit, which I mentioned earlier. It's actually a written demand that a guest or occupant leave the premises because their right to stay has ended. Okay, it has ended. The two key points here is that you need to know about the notice to quit. It is not an eviction order. That's one. A notice to quit does not by itself remove anyone. So they may not want to leave because it's not from the court telling them, which would mean the next step would be a warrant of eviction. Okay, so they're not scared. This is from you. Most people they'll push your limit. So if occupant doesn't leave, the next step is a court case for possession. It is merely a notice. This notice of to quit is a notice of termination. Get out. I'm warning you now. The New York Attorney General tenants' right guides, they have that, explains that this kind of notice does not automatically allow the landlord to evict and to refusal to vacate leads evictions proceedings. So what it's saying is to allow the landlord to evict, it doesn't, and to vacate leads to eviction proceedings. They want you to do the proceeding. You can give them this notice, but the Attorney General Tenants' Right Guide does not automatically allow the landlord to evict. All right, without the actual performance of eviction proceedings. All right, and the second one here is of the quit notice to quit is it only tells occupants exactly when the tenancy slash permission ends. Since they didn't listen and you didn't provide the documents prior, this letter, the notice to quit, it sets a termination date because then after that you're going to want to go to court, right? And demands they vacate by that date. See, if you don't notice someone a notice stating you have to go in writing and stuff like that, the court's saying not going to recognize you. Yes, you were late. You didn't do the legal process correct, but now you are. So you got to get back on track. That's the whole idea of the quit notice to quit, because if you don't do anything, you jump into court, they're going to say, did you notice this person? Did you tell them? No, I told them on the phone. No, I told, they're not going to accept your recordings. It's not permissible in court, admissible in court, sorry. Um, so what you need is documents. So a notice to quit is typically part of the lawful path to recover possessions. For example, um, notice, the court case, the warrant executed by sheriff and marshal. Those are the recovery of possession. Those are the only four ways to do it. You got to get a notice. That would be the notice because you didn't do it right the first time. Then you go to court and then you get the warrant executed by the sheriff or marshal, depending on what it is. What a New York notice to quit typically includes is a date of notice. You can put that in there, names of the occupants, property address, and unit, if any. A clear statement that their right to occupy is terminated. The move out deadline and termination date and time. All right. A statement that if they do not leave, you will begin court proceedings to recover possession. Very important. Landlord slash owner signature and contact information if you choose to put your contact information in there. All right. So basically, a notice to quit is your formal end of occupancy notice. If they ignore it, you use it to support a holdover eviction, which will jump to that instead of the 72-hour. You go for a holdover eviction case. You still need a court judgment, though, to physically remove them, all right? Don't forget that you're going to still need a court order, all right? You cannot just, a court order of judgment. You cannot just go and just do what you want. Yes, we know it's your property. You spent the money. You did the job. But this is the consequences that happen when you haven't to dot your I's and crossed off your T's legally. A holdover eviction case, I'm going to explain what that is the standard New York procedure to remove someone who won't leave or refuses to do so after their permission and tenancy ends, including Airbnb over 30 days situations. New York requires a court process to regain possession once a person has been in lawful occupancy long enough to be treated as a tenant if they weren't originally That part is for the Airbnbs if they weren't originally a tenant. So, like I said, don't have any mail going to the house, nothing like that, where they can now say, well, I've been here. Who would want to start sending mail if you've only been there in an Airbnb for 2 weeks, 3 weeks? They're going to start creating the ownership. So if you're going to give them 29 days, you can put in writing no mail is accepted to be. You cannot use this address for your mail servicing or anything. They'll have to go get somewhere else their mail or whatever it is they need to do, because usually when you want mail coming to an address and you're not renting as a tenant, then this person is trying to occupy and act as the tenant. And the courts will look at them as the tenant and give them tenant rights. So to get through all of this, you have to do what you need to do. Follow these instructions, these guides. I'm sure there's some law books. Look up real property laws. The laws I just mentioned are really good. Let me see. One of them is the RPL, real property laws, and then the action laws is so good. I love those one because they specifically tell you all you need to know about steps in the laws that you can take. And let me see. Real property. Yeah, this is one of my favorite. Um, you can look up under real property actions and proceeding laws, section 768. That's when you don't know what procedures to take, and they'll tell you what to do in your state, though. It has to be for the state where you live in. All right. So I'm hoping that you all enjoyed this session. This hot topic is now a trend on social media where people are becoming squatters. They're sitting on properties that are owned by not them. And like I said, the most recent person uses excuses. Not they get in, they put a down payment, they'll pay 1-2 months of rent, and then they stop. And in Airbnb, some of them aren't leaving and they're doing the same thing. So you got to be really careful, because money is time and time is money. And these people will hold you up and hold you back from creating the business that you wanted to, or getting the money that you need to either pay off your property or make something out of your property. So these squatters are now so smart that they're living for free. And some of them are doing it repeatedly. They'll leave one place, go to another. There's been history on the people that have been looked up. I'm not mentioning names, and they have done it with their past people. So these things need to be recorded on record in courts, but some people do not look up court cases, which is all public except for family law and matrimonial law. Those are not public records, but you can get anything else, criminal, all of that is public. These things you can be looked up. So basically, you can actually look up the person if you wanted to. It might take money. You don't have the time. If you don't have the time to do these things, then please put the rental agreements for your guests and your leases or month-to-month tenancies, and follow the rules. Following the rules will mean that you have every right over the person, the guest, occupant, or tenant, and you will get them successfully put out. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this session here. It's Saturday. Happy New Year's to you all. Wishing you all blessings, prosperity, happiness, harmony this year and every year there forward. But 2026, we're back. All right. Enjoy it. And like, share, subscribe to this channel. And I will see you next Saturday. Probably go live. Let's see. For Know Your Truth Real Talk, I have a great topic on that. And come watch my upcoming part 2 of I'm Out and About Travels. That's right. I'm out and about travels, destination travels, on my trip before Christmas in the Dominican Republic. It was pretty cool. All right. One is up now, and I'll put the next one up later. I will check you all soon, mi amores. Blessings. I hope you all have a great weekend. See you next week on Know Your Truth Real Talk. I'm JudgeDesire for knowledge, all right? Don't forget. Here's my civil gavel. I have one for each show. Can you imagine that? So thanks for joining me again. I really enjoy every week that I come out. It makes me feel good that I'm giving information that people can use. So here I am bringing you the truth and nothing but the truth on legal matters with me, Judge Desire for Knowledge, is now adjourned. And I will see you next one. Ciao. All right.